May 14th, you're listening to You Are Invited on WFUT Radio, broadcasting live from Factory Underground Studio here in beautiful Norwalk, Connecticut. And y'all, I am a Knicks fan, so you know that today is a big day for me. Feel super bad for Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics. I really hope we get him back real soon. But in the meantime, the Knicks have some realistic aspirations to the promised land, and tonight they could close it out against Boston. So, if you're watching the video live stream, you'll see I am wearing my Brunson jersey. I will be doing so quite a bit. So, yes, we are broadcasting live both on WFUTradio.com, also through the TuneIn app, and you can find my show every Wednesday at usually 5 p.m. On YouTube on the Belongfulness YouTube channel. You can also find me on the socials, Tony Be Good, TonyBGoode. And today I am featuring an interview with a dear old friend of mine. Her name is Alexandra Chaska, and she runs a website called Bunch, which is all about giving people small, intimate, personal gatherings to participate in real life in the Jersey City area of northern New Jersey, right across the river from Manhattan. And she has an amazing journey. She was actually a former member of my co-working space when I ran one in New York City. And she's just had an incredible journey as a community organizer and leader. So she and I recorded a conversation last week that I'm going to play for you now. And feel free to jump in the live stream with your comments or tag me on the socials if you want to share your thoughts as we go. But without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Aleks. Hey, everybody. Tony Bacigalupo here with Aleks Chaska, and I am so excited to have you here. Aleks, you and I have known each other for quite some time now.
Yeah, would it be like 10 years, I'd say?
The number in my head was around 10. I could probably look it up.
I was going to say 20. I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense.
I didn't know anybody that long. But you and I met because I was running a co-working space in New York called Newark City. And do you want to tell us maybe just a little bit about how you first discovered the co-working space and kind of what your world was at that time?
Oh my gosh, that's a trip down memory lane. So I was working, it's a long story. I had a contract, and a friend from college reached out to me to be a part of a CTO for his startup, and they were working out of New York City. So I quit my contract and I joined them and started working out of New York City. And I believe that was end of 2012.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm just going back into my email history. It's always so fun to put in the email of a friend and then just go all the way back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. And it looks like we first connected in the spring of 2012. And we were already doing some collaboration and stuff. So so what was your situation that kind of caused you to want to work from a co-working space?
Yeah, I don't think I knew co-working spaces existed back then. I've been freelance then for the past 3 years, until 2012. And so it was my partner that was working out of the co-working space, and they introduced me to it. They were like, oh, there's this cool place, like super relaxed and like people are so friendly and easygoing and still hardworking. I'm like, whoa, this is super cool. I've never seen something like that before.
Love that. I'm glad that those folks brought you into our world.
Yeah.
And so how was your experience with Newark City in those few years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. So I was spoiled on Newark City because it was pretty much like the best introduction to a co-working space that I could have. And after it closed down, or after I stopped working there, like, I was not able to find something as good as that. I've been searching for that. And so with New York City in particular, it was just very friendly. It didn't feel like the staff was us versus them. We all just felt we're working there together. You guys are working here as well. Whereas other co-working spaces, there's a huge, like, kind of a cloud,
Mm,
like an aura of, like, you're the other,
mm. You're the
and
customer.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and like, I don't, being freelance, I don't like red tape and hierarchical structures that don't make sense like that to me. We're all human beings, working in the same space. So I don't like put-ons like that. They're too
Mm.
artificial for me. So I'm not drawn to spaces like that. Um, so that's why I was drawn to New York City.
Awesome. Awesome. And in the 10 years almost since then, how tell us about a little bit about kind of how you ended up working on the project that you're working on now. What kind of led you to this point?
Wow, Tony. Well, how much time do you got?
I mean, it's only 10 years, Alex. All right, I'll put it this way. I'll put it this way. If we start with just kind of what was the context in which you started to get more active organizing and like kind of being like an active leader in your area?
So that is a very good question. And it's because it's not just 10 years, it's pretty much my entire life kind of led me to
Mm,
this. And as I started finding out who I am and with the kind of spaces that I fit into, that I work best in, that I feel most myself in. It kind of led me to what kind of a startup I want to have. But even at Newark City, I very naturally was putting on groups. I don't know if you remember, I put on a startup support group.
mhm.
Yeah, we met like weekly on Mondays or Wednesdays or something. We would go around, sitting at the table and just like talking about what our troubles are, at our individual startups. So that was fun. Um, but so over the past 10 years, I always wanted to have a startup of my own, even though I'm a freelance as well. That's a startup as well, but I wanted to have a bigger startup. And I tried one thing or another, and most of those things didn't work out. And I closed them within a year. So that
Mm,
was a lot of fun experimenting what would work, what didn't work, what kind of a startup I want to be a part of. And so I'd say in 2022, I was working on such a startup, which was a technical product. It was very
mm,
complicated, as I tend to make things, because my desire was also to troubleshoot this technology and figure out whether this could work. So the desire was more technical for me, and I
mhm,
was really working hard on this very, very technical product. Um, and I, at the end of 22, I broke up with a boyfriend that lived in New York.
mhm,
And I live in Jersey City, but because I'm originally in this country from Brooklyn, when I moved to Jersey City, Jersey was only a place where I would sleep, and I would always just hang out in New York, right? For 10
yeah,
years, I did that. Jersey was I only moved here because the rent is cheap. And so for 10 years, I never explored Jersey. But when I broke up with my boyfriend, I basically said, fuck this. There's got to be something. I'm just so tired of commuting to New York. There's got to be something on this side of the river. And I
yeah.
started, yeah, and I started exploring Jersey City downtown, and in 10 years I've never come down there, so I saw how cool it was and how what a niche little place it is. It's so close to New York, and yet it feels like a big city, like a small city within a big city.
Mhm.
All run into each other, like just the feel of the bars and the restaurants, just the entire town feels like a little tiny neighborhoody. And I saw an opportunity. So when I broke up with my boyfriend, I started hanging out in Jersey, and uh, because I didn't want to travel to New York all the time, spend all that time, I put up a meetup here. And
Mm.
shortly after, because I'm in the startup world in entrepreneurship, I put on paid events as well. And in all that time of putting on, trying one idea or another, I never had such an ease of charging for things,
Mm.
which told me people are really hungry for social things. There's a real demand for, going out, meeting people, etc. I had absolutely no trouble, charging for tickets, for things in person rather than, a subscription for a technical product, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, um,
And what were those, like, initial events? What were they similar to the ones you were doing in the city, kind of like startup group therapy type things or something else?
yeah, actually, absolutely not. It was different. It was just social stuff like, let's grab a drink, happy hour, board games, stuff like that. I troubleshooted with what would work. So I essentially created this for myself. Like the meetup was for myself, but of course my brain just cycles into entrepreneurship all the time. I I was trying to figure out how, um, can I actually scale something like this? So the
Mm.
market is there, the need is there, but I would never let myself get into a business where now I have to have events every week. I have to, be the RSVPs have to be reliable. I have to, that's how I get my salary. I would never uh, dive deep, and work hard on something like that, because then I don't see where this working hard will end.
Mm.
And I don't see how easily scalable it is. So I quickly, and also, so parallel to that, I also noticed that bigger events are really not conducive to people meeting each other, because you'll have 5-minute conversations with 50 different people and nobody remembers you, and
Yeah.
you can have the best conversations, which I had, and then reach out on LinkedIn or whatever, Instagram, and then people are like, who are you? They just, it's just so easy not to reach out
Yeah.
and be lazy because you only had a 5-minute conversation. So that's where I thought, well, why not? What I really want, and yes, I thought this thought occurred to me. I want to force people to sit down, shut up, and listen to another person, and of course talk a bit about themselves. And what better way to do that than a restaurant scenario, because a
Mm.
restaurant scenario is so perfect, for kind of locking you into a time frame, where you
Mm.
can't bail, where your food's coming, you can't bail, man. So it's like this perfect time frame of a perfect experience of like 4 to 6 to 8 people, uh, that don't know each other, meeting and having this unique time over unique experience of, a different restaurant. And, not every dinner is absolutely the same, even if it's at the same restaurant, so having this unique experience and having an hour and an hour and a half, or even longer if they continue, now that they've met, they continue to hang out for the rest of their night.
Mm.
um, that's so much better to actually meeting a person and getting to know, about who they are.
Yeah,
um,
compared to, like, the totally open-ended, like, networking event kind of vibe, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, where, I don't understand those either. Like you stand there, like you're meant to come up to someone on your own, and then when you do come up, you get the faces of like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a person at this networking event. That's why we're here, right?"
Mm.
Um, and then you don't know when to leave, so people like stay together because now they found someone that they like talking to. So I don't want to lose that. So these things are so weird. um that I I thought that it would be just so much better to just sit down and have a meal and actually have an hour and a half um to get to know other people. But to me, if I was at a dinner like this, that would be a breath of fresh air, because it would be like, aha, I have you for an hour and a half, you can't escape, you can't move on to somebody else. So to me, it's I can actually relax when I know that, okay, we're going to be there for an hour and a half. I don't have to think about how long to stay and when to leave, and etc.
Hmm.
So I
And
mean, I have more, but yeah.
yeah, no, this is amazing, and there's this added benefit of people breaking bread together. That's in our nature as human beings, that we like to share food. We connect over sharing food. So I'm sure there's a lot of benefit just being in that environment together. I guess I'm curious, how did you find those first people, or how did they find you? Were you on meetup.com specifically as a platform?
Yes. Yes, Meetup is wonderful for that. Um, it's basically it's the first spot where you go to create a group. That's what I did, and we still have a Meetup group as well. Now it's some 3,000 people and growing still daily. But yeah, so it was Meetup, Instagram a little bit, but it's some people Instagram works for them. For us, it's just to connect with our current audience, but it doesn't work so much for us.
So really, Meetup gave you this pipeline of people coming in, and how did you? I want to ask, like, how did you? Uh, how did you curate that experience when maybe you didn't know who was going to come in the door?
Yeah. So this was a precursor to what we have now. Now we have an app called Bunch, letsbunch.com, where you can find it. Um, and the precursor was Dining Social. What I would do at Dining Social, I just built a website. I didn't bother with an app to prove the concept, obviously. I would charge for attendance, and I would host these. So, imagine I'd be having 3 dinners a week and then a brunch on the weekend as well, and I would host all of these. Um, People would RSVP on the site, and if it was less than 3 people RSVP'd, I would just cancel the dinner and refund
Mhm.
people's fees. That's how it worked. I would also market through Meetup. I would find people through Meetup, but also I quickly uh, determined that a lot of people in Jersey are not in Meetup. They're essentially just hang out at bars and restaurants. So,
Mm.
and because I took advantage that it is a small kind of tightly knit neighborhood, to just plaster the town with a bunch of posters for Dining Social, and I kind of worked out what the best messaging would be, and this was my first Sucky Friends campaign. So,
What is
what?
the Stucky Friends
Oh my
campaign?
gosh! Maybe I can. Can I show you a poster? I don't know.
Please show me a poster. I'm very
Okay.
interested in this. I'll talk while you go find that, because meetup.com is useful as far as getting people in the door, but I am a fan of flyers and posters, and so I'm always curious about what people create.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here you go.
Sucky Friends. Oh, you know what? I have
It's
to see if I can
backwards.
flip you. Hang on, I got you. I got you. Make better ones in Jersey and Hoboken over dinner, brunch, drink, or coffee. DiningSocialNJ.com. I love it. I love it. Was that
Okay.
Canva?
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I absolutely love Canva. Lots of promos here today, but yes, that's like the only subscription actually that I pay for professionally.
Yeah.
Well, and Meetup, of course, as well. But I absolutely love Canva, and now they have AI images, which I use all the time. So, yeah.
It's amazing, little pause to shout out Canva, that Canva went into an extraordinarily crowded market of, like, graphic design software, and they did something that is so obvious in retrospect. Is like, let's just design something from the ground up for, like, everybody who isn't a professional designer to just make this dead
Yeah.
simple. And, I really think, just having talked to so many people about Canva, even back to the Newark City days, and we're talking 15 years that this has been, or however many years that Canva's been around. Um, I think Canva's played a big role in helping people get the word out about stuff. Like,
Absolutely.
it's lowered the barrier to graphic design in general.
Absolutely. I mean, like I mentioned, what what would I use? I would probably have to hire a graphic designer, which, that would really stole my time. Not to mention just the design time, or I would try to do it myself, which would in Photoshop or something similar, and that would just stall my progress,
Mhm,
and probably not make something as beautiful, so it would bring way less people. I
mhm, mhm.
absolutely adore it. So.
Okay, so I wanna go deeper into this if you don't mind, because I'm just so fascinated with it. How did you go about printing the flyers, picking out spots, mounting them? Like,
Oh
take
yeah.
me through your process.
Yeah, Vistaprint, but only because actually, you know what? Now I use Vistaprint, but before that, it was my co-working space. I printed
Mhm.
it, and imagine, I don't think they think that anybody would be as silly to have like just all black. This, so they're like, "Oh, don't worry, Alex. You can print." So I'm like, "Oh, great. I hope you know what you're talking about,
That
man."
poor co-working space.
But it had to, for me, it had to be black, because everything that I saw from my competitors and other flyers was white. So I'm like, yeah, it has to stand out. So I printed it, and basically, once again, I take the benefit of being in Jersey. That's why I'm not in New York, and we can talk about that as well. And there's just so much benefit. The fact that I can walk the neighborhood and see other flyers, and if there weren't other flyers at the windows, I probably would not have approached a lot of these places. And like, we're talking pharmacies, like mom and pop pharmacies, like hair salons, that I, once again, I wouldn't think, but then I see flyers. I'm like, hey, I'm sure your clients would like this. Would you like me to leave some flyers? So basically, I just walked the town and plastered these guys wherever I could, and handed out and left small little leaflets, with whomever wanted it.
And people were generally receptive? Did you get a lot of no's?
Yes, lots of rudeness, of course.
You
Oh
did?
my, yeah. I actually, when I started this, um, I also walked around to restaurants. Walking around to restaurants was pretty much the first thing that I did. And some restaurant owners were also rude.
Mm.
One guy offered me a job on the spot, and so, as a hostess, but basically, like, who the hell are you, what are you doing, why are you doing this, how are you going to make money, like, just very questioning,
Mm.
but that's what you get. You just, and even walking around with the flyers, same thing, like, no, we don't have any, get out of here, we don't have any spots. They didn't say get out of here,
Mm.
but their attitude did. um, but that's just what you get.
Mhm.
uh, that doesn't mean it doesn't affect you for a few seconds or minutes,
Yeah.
but for me, I'm very factual when I uh, when I encounter certain things like that. So to me, like I'm analyzing the situation, I want to understand whether it's something that I did. Is it rude to approach these people? So that's why it's a little anxiety ridden for me, because it's
Mm.
like, can I learn something from this? But then I'm like, no, some people are just rude.
Well, and I feel like just what you're doing takes a degree of bravery that you have to be willing to walk in and introduce yourself to a stranger and ask them for something and recognize that some people are gonna be wonderful and nice about it and some people aren't, but on the balance, you're gonna reach people. And I
Yeah,
imagine that those flyers did reach people.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and even now with the app, we're growing pretty quickly. So it's not just online; it's definitely the flyers plastered around everywhere. At parks, dog parks. Every window that I could find. Double if there's space, I put it double. So yeah, there's also he doesn't have a lot of competition. There's this guy called Martin the Flyer guy. He's a character. You should definitely meet. I think you would love this guy. So he does New York and Jersey. He's this guy that you would never think does flyers, but he basically rolls around with a suitcase, and he looks like a homeless guy. You would think he's a homeless guy, but he has a suitcase full of flyers because people pay him like $5.50, or like me now probably even more, to plaster the town with posters. And so he just rolls around this suitcase full of posters, and you think he's a homeless guy, but he actually does an amazing job. So after, like, I did an initial thing for Dining Social 2 years ago, I hired him to see if it was going to be better,
Mm.
and definitely better, for just offloading the work for me, but in a good experience too.
Mm. That's amazing, and, did you feel like, you said you were putting up these posters in different kinds of environments, like dog parks. Did you end up creating kind of like a road bag for yourself of, like, different fasteners and tape and all of that stuff?
Yes, but it didn't look like a road bag. It's definitely my professionalism in posters is way lower than Martin the Flyer guy. So I didn't, and
Very few people can achieve the professional standards of Martin the Flyer guy.
yes, he's an expert. He's a professional. He's been doing this for a long time. I just had an over-the-shoulder bag with staplers, thumbtacks, and tape. And of course, I had a car, so no luggage on the wheels. I just drove around. So
Mhm, mhm.
I
Did
don't
you
have enough
feel?
time.
Because 'cause I've done this before in Norwalk not that long ago. Did you feel a little bit like you were doing something wrong or like something, transgressive, just kinda like, "Alright, I gotta, like, sneak out of the car, like, go put this thing on the pole," and, did you feel a little self-conscious doing it? I know I did.
Yes, especially in the places where it didn't look like I should put the flyers, but yet I did because I just couldn't miss a chance of all this traffic. And then, like, there's this perfect spot, and like, I'm just gonna do it and just run. Uh,
You're making me
yes,
think I need to be bolder with my, placement because I feel like I erred far too strong on the side of caution of, like, only posting where I knew for sure that it would be okay to do it or where there were already a lot of other posters, and I feel like I'd probably stand out more if I was a little more, gutsy about it.
well, debatable, right? Because standing out is always a risk of, oh, they're doing it too much. That's just like too much. That's like not acceptable, or that's rude, right? Or like, oh, that's cool. That's bold, right? So there's like a balance, and I'm afraid sometimes as well. I'm like, is this too much? Is this like too going out there? And not because uh, I'm afraid to be bold, but more like I'm afraid to not strike the balance of well, that's a dick move, Alex. Nobody's
Mm.
going to like that. And they're going to think negatively of the company if it's a dick move. I mean, like plastering something, for example, at a waiting room at a doctor's office, that's a dick move. That's something I wouldn't do. That's kind of an example of like, okay, maybe that boldness is a little too far.
And then you get a bunch of people showing up who all have like bandages over their heads and stuff.
I heard there was dinner here.
That's fair. I think there's probably a balance to be had, but I do think just hearing you describe this that you've probably been more assertive than most people would be with flyer placement. Now, and I imagine that has had a strong effect because I don't know. I feel like it can be very difficult for a community builder to reach people when they're just getting started. If you don't already have an existing, network that you're leveraging or something like that, and it sounds like you made really creative use of some good tools that got you in front of the right kinds of people.
Yeah, I have a comment on that. Even leveraging your current network, people are going to say, what the fuck, Alex? Like, people aren't, because it's not even leveraging Meetup, right? It's our group, it's all free events. And then we say sponsored by Bunch, or even if we set up an event and say RSVP on Bunch so that we know you're coming, people are like, what the fuck is this? Like, am I being sold to? And I'm like, it's a free event, and the download of the app is free. Like, it's all free. So even leveraging Meetup has been difficult to where people think I'm a dick. But you just have to go. And my advisor basically says like, hey, people have said something that they're confused between Bunch and Meetup. Maybe you should like disconnect the two. And I basically told her, my advisor, it's either they're confused or there's no Meetup.
Yeah.
I'm paying for the Meetup in order so that I can have a community and leverage the community to use the app, which I think is way better for them because they can create the Hangouts on Bunch on their own. The confusion is there because they've been sold to so much on Meetup, especially, that here's another thing that they think I'm being used again. And it's not often that somebody, tries to promote a free thing from a free thing. So it's like, okay, all these free events. Okay, now you're going to get me with some fees. And like, no, that's a free thing. And that's a free thing as well.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
hard
think
to earn trust.
Yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, and people are just tired. They know the old schemes, which kind of falls into my mission, and not just doing this for the money, and like doing it for the mission of the more open society, access to more locals, etc.
So take me through kind of how you transitioned to, focusing on Bunch. What is Bunch? How did you start focusing on the audience for Bunch?
Yeah, so that's a great story. It's probably the most important, I feel, for me, maybe as a person as well. So I was running Dunning Social, started it 2023. It was great. Everybody loved it. We put on lots of different things. Obviously, I tried different things like having other hosts. That was difficult. And I couldn't hang the company on not being able to find the right people for hosts. So I already thought, that's not scalable, hosting dinners and having other hosts. So I was working on a more scalable version of the website, etc., of the model without me hosting, people just getting together. And at the beginning of 24 is where a competitor came in, with a very similar idea. They threw ads at the market and basically took the market. To me, that was a kind of a dark night of the soul, but it was a really confusing time because I always wanted Bunch to be a thing. I always wanted it to be where you go on the website or the mobile app, and you're the one who creates this thing, creates a dinner, creates a coffee, and invites our members based on age, gender, or interests. And it's all free. So it was always meant to be free. However, when I was building Dining Social, people told me, business coaches told me, you always build from a premium to the mainstream. So you're making money first in the premium, and then you make it mainstream. So that's what I tried to do. After the competitor, came in and kind of did a similar thing, I tried to go more premium, but that didn't really matter. It was the same type of deal the same behavior from members that I've seen when it was not premium. So I'm like, okay. And so I basically decided to just dive headfirst into the app, into my original idea, not wait for premium to take off years and years. Who knows whether that's going to take off? And just dive headfirst into let's build this app, and let's give it to people for free, and let's actually attempt to solve this issue of our society being less connected. I mean, we have this technology, we have the ability to do all this technology. The reason that somebody's not solving an issue is because it's not making money. Maybe nobody's as crazy as me to develop, to put in years of not getting paid to build an app for people, for a free app for people to solve this issue. But I think that's what we need, so that's basically what I decided summer of last year. I'm just going to do this app and I'm just going to release it to people. And yes, it's free. And, yes, dreams do come true, because people, I've had questions from people like, is this for real? Like, this is all free? I'm like, yes, I believe this has to be, this has to exist for people. This is something that people want in the base free version. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm sure I'm missing some steps in there, but yeah, it's been a whole journey with the app itself, from the beta to launching it, to me thinking, okay, now I'm going to get investment, now this and this and that. But essentially, since January, since the launch, I've been focused on, okay, we need to brush this up. We need to brush this up on the app. And it's like constant, it's basically constant improvement so that the app is actually reliable for people and useful in the free version, and builds, basically succeeds in the mission it was built for, rather than, okay, I released the app, yeah, it's some shitty stuff, but it's free, so use it. So I'm trying to I'm trying for it to be what it's meant to be: reliable, secure. You're going to meet great people. If you don't like somebody, you're not the one that has to not show up at the events. You just block a person, right? That's what you would do with friends. You just wouldn't hang out. So I want to make sure that it's useful as possible in the free version, before charging features. Anyway, I'm going in circles now, but
No, this is all really good and it's really important. And there's a lot of topics we can expand into. I guess what I'm curious about is, what does it look like today? What does, if I log into the Bunch app, what am I going to see? What's going on this week?
Yeah. Okay. This week. So today, we have, I started working with restaurants to promote us while we have dinners at their place. So they're promoting their dinners at their place so that people come in, to their establishment essentially. And that also allowed me to grow quicker because there's no question whether they're going to promote us, because that's just a positive for them. There's no fee between me and the restaurant. There's no fee between me and the members. So it just helps us grow so much quicker. So yesterday we had a dinner like that. I didn't go. I gotta find. Well, I don't have to, but I'll find out from people how it went, whether anybody was unruly. Today we have a social dinner that I'm also joining. And the benefit of this entire thing is that it's so circular, because sometimes I join the dinners and I named them a technical Q&A. So people come over, ask me questions about the app as well. And that's just a cool thing that I'm able to do, which is super awesome for me to easily connect with people that are using the app and like hear about any problems. And they, get to tell me like new features that they wanted or any issues. So hopefully I'll hear some of that today. And let's see, tomorrow we have a few people gathering for a game. Friday, we have board games, which are regular board games that people gather. And then Saturday, I think there's pickleball, Sunday, there's also a brunch with another partner restaurant, and it goes on and on. So we have things, we started in January in Jersey, and we have things going on pretty much every day of the week.
Yeah. That is so cool, so incredible. How many people do you have come into these events, or in any given span of time?
That's a very good question, and it's something that I'm working hard on communicating. This is supposed to be small groups.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know this idea yet. It's a new idea. The reason they're supposed to be small is because they are supposed to be manageable. Like imagine anybody can set up a bunch. Imagine someone new sets up a bunch and invites, it's their first time, they don't know what they're doing, and they invite 20 people, to a restaurant, and then 20 people are standing outside. So that's unmanageable for new people. So it's supposed to be small groups. However, people are not accustomed to, or they don't know the concept of a small group event of people I don't know from anybody else. Even our competitors they don't really just put on a dinner of 6 people isolated. They kind of put dinners on in the same restaurant, and they put you in a group of 6 people with your own members. So, but to me, that's unnecessary. I want these bunches to happen more frequently. That's why, and be more manageable. That's why they should be small. So to your question, it's usually 3 to 6 people. And to me, when that happens, I'm super happy, but we still have community leaders that have lots of different abilities in the app. They have special abilities that they have the ability to increase the limit. So they have been, and I have been increasing the limit whenever somebody asks me to like 20, 30. So we have events like that. And I really, it would be stupid of me to limit, to say, no, this is only for 6 people. If people really want that, that'd be super silly for me to be like, no, you can only go for a walk with 6 people. Like, but my friends are coming. Like, I don't care. Your friends can go suck it.
Well, yeah. I respect your commitment to the thing which distinguishes these gatherings from other gatherings, which is that they are more intimate. You are more likely to connect. This isn't a place where you're just going to get handed a bunch of business cards, but at the same time, maybe there are opportunities to scale up, to step up the level of engagement and involvement with people who are ready for that. And maybe you can tackle a larger gathering in a way that larger gatherings haven't, succeeded. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's fun territory to explore there.
Yeah, absolutely. I so agree with you, Tony. There's so much things to explore here. And it's because we're dealing with people and people love different types of stuff. Um, and one of the biggest, a differentiating factor is the small groups. But even if that goes away, my favorite thing about it is the spontaneity,
Mm,
because you don't need a host to set up an event. You don't have to wait for a meetup to happen, for another group to put on an event. You say, I am free this Saturday and I want to start at 2:15, because that fits with my schedule. So you're the one who sets up a brunch or whatever, or a walk for 2:15. And when we get to a bigger audience, whatever the limit is, it could be 30, 50, whatever. If that's what you want, within an hour, you can set up a 50-person walk, in Jersey City downtown. If that's what you're up for, yeah, but we're all gang ho. And once we're bigger, that's definitely possible with us. That type of spontaneity, that's my favorite thing, where you don't, because I hate making plans, and my friends and as soon as I make plans, I'm like, oh shit, that's another thing I have to do now,
I
So,
appreciate you making the sacrifice to join me on this call right
yes,
now. I know.
it's a pain, and you're welcome. The
So what
sacrifices I do.
what are you excited about going forward? What can we look forward to from
Oh
Bunch?
my gosh, so many cool things. I'm trying to make it more reliable. Even though it's a free product, I want people to understand that it's more reliable than other things in
Mm,
terms of RSVPs. We as in I am very not allowant of goofiness, tomfoolery on the app. So I, there have been some questionable pictures sent. So
okay.
uh, I rather take care of most of the members, like the bigger group, and like if you're sending stuff like that, you're automatically like suspended, and you got to
Mm,
write to us and explain that you won't do that type of stuff. Um, Even though it's a free product, I want people to know that it's safe and secure, and the RSVPs are assured, because they're smaller groups, right? We couldn't um, we couldn't go on with a RSVP system like meetups. 30 people
mm,
RSVP. I love meetups still, but 30 people RSVP, 5 people show up. We
yeah.
can't run like that.
Yeah.
This has to be kind of like you meeting up with your friends that you haven't met yet, in a small group. And so if it's a dinner of 6 people, these RSVPs have to be sure. But because think about 2 people meeting out of those 6, and nobody else shows up. Well, now that's like some awkward date. We
Yeah.
can't, we can't let that, we
Yeah.
can't let that happen. So what I'm working on is checking in, the ability to check in. You have to see somebody who RSVP'd. You have to scan their code to check in. So if you don't, and you you don't RSVP, sorry, you don't show up twice in a row when you have RSVP'd, then you're automatically blocked from RSVPing until you contact us,
Mm.
yada yada. So this, like, making accounts assured is our next step. And with all that, the ability to gain points, use points to RSVP, and gain points when you RSVP early. So all that type of systems.
Very tricky thing to get right, and, you and I have discussed some of the thought process behind how to enforce that, so I appreciate you doing the hard work, and I'm sure that that's gonna, yield a lot of fruit in terms of improving the experience for everyone.
I hope so as well. And thank you.
So, two quick kind of closing questions. One, what is a community that you love, or that what's a place where you find belonging outside of anything we've talked to so far?
Oh my gosh. I love places where you don't have to be on, where you can go, you don't have to talk, but you can. So I'm drawn to things like board games where people can be playing a board game, but they don't have to, and they can be having a conversation as well, but they don't have to say anything. Or people are sitting around drawing and at random times somebody says something. Or
Yeah.
people are sitting around co-working and at random times, usually it's Alex, blurts something out, something stupid out usually, and bothers you, so communities like that.
Love that. That's awesome. And, last one, um, books. Is there a recent book or
Right.
just a favorite book that you love to shout out?
Yes, I really love reading about emotional intelligence and how to spot it or learn it in spot things in yourself. So there's a book on emotional intelligence that I forgot the name of, and but it's super super useful. I can probably find it. And the other one is, I'm sure you've heard of, The Artist's Way.
Mhm.
Have you heard about that? Yeah, I
Oh, yeah.
absolutely love that. I love that as well. And that's, I
Yeah.
mean, that's huge on emotional intelligence as well, already. So
Love that. Love that. Alex, such a pleasure. So how do we find you? How do we find Bunch on the internet?
letsbunch.com. That is the easiest to find all the resources, or Instagram, the Apple app, and the Android app.
Wonderful.
Letsbunch.com.
Letsbunch.com.
Yep.
Alex, such a pleasure to hang with you. I'm looking forward to us talking more. Best of luck. Keep up the amazing work, and, I'm cheering you on.
Sweet. Awesome. I appreciate it, Tony. Thank you for having me on.
Okay, so that was my interview with Alex Chaska from Let's Bunch. Coming up here in Norwalk, we are hosting Bike Party on Friday the 16th at 7 p.m. We will be meeting outside of 50 Washington Street. That's that big apartment building right at the overpass for the train station. So if you're here in Norwalk, or even if you're not here in Norwalk, you want to come on over, pretty easy to get to from the train station if you want to throw your bike on a train. This Friday, the 16th, we're doing Bike Party. Learn more well, you know what? Just come find me, Tony Be Good, on the socials. It's 6:05 p.m. here in Norwalk, Connecticut, and it is a rainy, gross day, 61 degrees, and I am a little over my time, so I'm going to check out of here. I have a basketball game to go watch. Go Knicks. Appreciate all of you hanging with me, and we'll see you next week. Bye.